Welcome back. All right, one thing about me doing a review on the hockey channel wearing an entertainment guy jersey is it means I can then start up an entertainment guy video, and there's no need for changing. So I went and saw Smackdown on Friday. Now, partial disclosure, this past week was not a fun week for my wife and I. It was a rough week, and by the time Friday rolled around, there was part of me that was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go into Vancouver and watch wrestling. But you know what? It was fun. It was good to watch a live show. I had never been to a TV taping. I say TV taping even though I know it's live on TV, but you guys know what I mean. But it's different than seeing the house show, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But I wanted to talk about things that I saw, so I'm not going to go through each match because you guys have already watched SmackDown, and if you haven't, you probably don't care who won. So the commercial breaks, I'd always wondered. So you see them going into a commercial break and their theme song's playing and they're in the ring dancing around. And then they come back from commercial, they have some kind of backstage segment, they have another segment, and then they go back to the ring and they're still dancing around to their music. So I was wondering, like, how does that work? And yeah, the lights go dark in the ring, the music stops, and they just stand there and wait. And wait. Michin, I even thought was just, like, not coming to the ring because her music stopped while she was halfway down the ramp. I was like, okay, so she's just going to stand on the ramp and then we're going to come back. Are we going to do like a run-in? But yeah, just during the commercial breaks, nothing. The funniest one was Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly, the disco ball comes down, they're dancing around, and then nothing. For like almost 5 minutes, they're just standing there, and then the music comes back up, they're dancing again, and I was like, man, that's got to be tough. And yet, one thing that really stood out to me watching a live show compared to a house show is that the amount of time you have in the ring to make an impression if somebody backstage is waiting to see how good you are at work in the crowd, you don't have much time with televised matches. They were much shorter than the matches you'd see at a house show. And I knew that going in, but when you're watching it and you're used to watching house shows, you realize, okay, you've got like 3 minutes. You got to wow Triple H or whoever in the back, and that's what you've got. And if you blow it, that's it, right? We've seen wrestlers go out there and blow it that one time they're out there, Braden Walker, and then you're done. You know, you can introduce yourself to everybody backstage if you want, but you're done. So Michin had a mid-match break. Now, I haven't gone through and seen if this was televised or not, and I watched the ups and downs of SmackDown from Simon Miller of What Culture Wrestling. But what happened was that I think her bra strap in the back actually just released. So she rolled out of the ring because, you know, I was watching on the screen and I said to Yvonne, I said, something's wrong. Like, that's something's wrong there. And she didn't look comfortable. And so the referee was out there trying to help her get it done up, and it wasn't happening. And the crowd was getting very restless. I also heard some fans saying, oh, she could work without the bra. And it's like, yeah, funny. Ha, ha, ha. Let's go back to 1999. Let's not and say we did. But you could see how frustrated she was. The match wasn't, it didn't feel right. Like there was no chemistry in the ring between Io Sky and Michin. And I wonder if that's what it was, because they never really quite got it back. And I don't know if that translated to TV or not, but watching it live, it just felt off. It was hard to get into. And once they went through that spot where about 3 or 4 minutes she's outside the ring, and of course Io Sky has to kind of sell it like she's still down and out, because I even said to Yvonne, I said, this is where if she's a heel, she'd actually just be over beating her up, but she won't, because Io Sky's not a heel. It's so weird, because they're still, you know, she's in Damage Control. My biggest disappointment of the night is the Damage Control came out, and I couldn't see any of their faces. I knew it was Asuka on the left because she was dancing. Asuka's always dancing. She's loving the Damage Control stuff right now. But I was really disappointed. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe after the match they'll do a run-in, or nope. Just a regular match. And again, the chemistry wasn't there, so it's too bad. I do kind of hope they have a rematch, just because that was not a fantastic matchup. I think they could do better next time. But the other thought I had too was, so with Michin, didn't they run through this? Like her ring gear, if it's that likely to let things loose and all of that, It's just one of those things that I thought, okay, did they not test it, or is it just one of those fluky things that it just happened? Roman Reigns is really hated in Vancouver. He always has been, though. Anytime I've gone to a house show, when Roman comes out, nobody likes him, even if he's the good guy. So it works. But I think part of the nuclear heat live is this was being set up to make it look like Randy was going to win. Like, Randy Orton spent so much time outside the ring. Like, he spent so little time actually in the ring doing anything. It was like, and then he'd go in and then he'd have some reason to be outside the ring. But he was outside for a long time. And so that was the other thing I was wondering, too. Like, do these wrestlers really sell that long? The answer is kinda. Like, if they're not on camera, it's kinda. But it's more like he's leaning against the barricade waiting for his moment where he knows he has to go in and make a save or attack somebody. But it was, even that match, the triple threat match, had its awkward moments too. The biggest hit of the night was KO. I don't know if the Bruce There It Is chants hit the airwaves, if you could hear him. Bruce Boudreau, former Vancouver Canucks coach, is friends with Kevin Owens. So that's why there was the Bruce There It Is chants from the crowd. But it was fun. It was fun. I think between house shows and live shows, I think I prefer house shows just because you get the 3 hours of wrestling. You get the, there's a break in between. It doesn't feel like the merch tables are ridiculous. The merch table was ridiculous. I got nothing. Nothing. They were selling a Vancouver 316 shirt and it's green. And all I could think was, okay, A, the font's wrong. It's not the Austin font. At least it didn't look like it to me. But then again, it says Vancouver, so that's a big word. So it's smaller letters and all that. But it was green. And I'm like, why do I want a green Stone Cold shirt that says Vancouver 316 on it? It's like, well, that proves you were there. But why? Why does it say, why not Austin 316 and make it black? And then I might have thought about buying one. I haven't had an Austin 316 shirt in ages. And I know if you're going to say, well, Steve Austin would get the money from that. I'm pretty sure he gets the money for the skull on the back of it anyways. Green? I don't know who made the decision to make that t-shirt green, but I didn't think it was a nice green either. It was not like a nice dark green. It was just regular green. I think I could probably Photoshop one of those up pretty quickly. And then they had other t-shirts too for, to show you were here. And I was like, because it was the New Year's Revolution. And then on the back it said, I was there. And I'm thinking, it's an episode of Smackdown. So yes, AOP came out. One thing I was deciding about today was whether or not Yvonne would be here with me when I reviewed it. Honestly, she was confused a lot of the time. So like when Santos was going to fight Kevin Owens and you get two guys fighting other two guys, I didn't even try to explain it to her. I'm like, you know what? Nah, it's fine. It's fine, because she's just looking going, what? And then at the end, when you have the triple threat match, and Roman and the Bloodline came out, the bell never rang. So the weird thing is, referees in that situation used to ring the bell to say, the match is thrown out. The bell never rang. So as far as I know, that match is still happening. And if they figure it out, I think Randy Orton should pin AJ Styles on the plane. Just get a ref, just pin him. Just do it like a 24/7. It was weird, but again, for my wife who doesn't watch wrestling, she's like, well, why is this happening? And so I couldn't explain it to her until we were coming home, because the crowd was again nuclear about Roman. But I said it'll take a while for me to explain this. But again, to a non-wrestling fan, it's like, okay, these three guys are attacking these three guys. So what's that about? And then you can't hear what's coming across on TV. So when the GM says it's a fatal four-way, that we never hear that in the arena. So we didn't hear it, but I could read lips from Nick Aldis. So it's one of those things just kind of weird. And then the weirdest part is the show goes off the air. They start taking apart the announce table and everything. The announcers leave. And then Chelsea Green comes to the ring. Now, obviously, this isn't on TV, and this is where it does get kind of weird, because she fought Bianca Belair, who was all dressed to come out and wrestle, even though she had whatever with Bayley backstage. Just from a storyline standpoint, wouldn't she have been like, hey, Bayley, I'll go out and fight you, and then tell Chelsea I'll fight you later? Chelsea came out. She gave thanks to the people of Vancouver. She talked about how she was a wrestling fan in Vancouver. It's nice to be home. She was very heartfelt in the beginning. And then she turned heel mid-promo, because it's what you do. She's the bad guy. She's got to get heat. So she did the whole, Vancouver sucks and the Canucks can't win Stanley Cups. Logan Paul and Chelsea both said that. I just laughed. While everybody else is booing and how dare you, and I'm thinking, it's been over 50 years. They haven't won one. I understand where they're coming from. I may not like the sentiment, but I understand it. So Chelsea had the fight with Bianca Belair. It had about, I would say, 10 minutes. It was a good match. Chelsea's a good wrestler. I do think that with her gimmick and with her spot on the roster, I don't think she's ever going to get a push. I would like to be wrong. But at the very least, with her being married to Matt Cardona, Matt can walk her through that. Plus, for Chelsea, not being the main event isn't the end of the world. She's still on the shows, and she clearly really enjoys what she does. And hey, fun wrestling boots. I pointed that out to my wife too. But yeah, Chelsea had a good match. Bianca, of course, went over. Then Rhea Ripley came out and fought Ivy Nile, which was weird because so Io Sky wins her match, and they announced, and still the WWE Women's Champion is Io Sky. And then Rhea comes out, here's your Women's World Champion. Again, if you're not a wrestling fan and you're just coming in to see what all the hubbub's about, you'd be like, wait a minute. That other lady was out with the belt earlier. This one has a belt too. Did she steal it off the other one? Like, now that we don't call them Raw and SmackDown Women's Champions, they're both the Women's Champion. It's kind of weird. And again, just thinking from the point of view, because again, maybe it's because I'm sitting beside my wife who doesn't know what's going on. It's like, okay, so you've got two Women's Champions. So Rhea and Ivy had a really good match. They did. Both of these women are extremely fit. They have really good chemistry in the ring. Ivy Nile has a very bright future. She is small. So the fact that she is slight in her build means that when she's up against Rhea, if Rhea ever decided, you know what, I don't think I'm going to sell, that's it for Ivy for the night. But Rhea, the thing that impressed me with Rhea live, her shoulders are ridiculous. Most of the men on the roster don't have shoulders that are built like that. That she is, and she's very good. She had a lot of fun on her way to the ring. She had a lot of fun on her way to the back. She just seems like an absolute delight. She even made one of the ring workers at ringside. She made him crack up. She cracked him up. That was her. That seems to be what she wants to do. She wants to crack up fans at ringside, and people working around the ring too. I thought she was fantastic. Rhea Ripley is the face of women's wrestling right now, rightfully so. She's excellent at what she does. And when they actually pull the trigger on a face turn at some point, and I think they will, she can keep the character as she is right now, just having fun, just enjoying herself. And it was great. So Ivy Nile had a good match with her. Obviously, the Riptide ends up getting the win for Rhea, and it was fine. Actually, I counted every pin when it happened, and I was so proud of myself being a wrestling nerd, where I would go, okay, 1, 2, 3. The only exception was the RKO. The only time I did the 1, 2, and then nope, is the RKO when LA Knight pulls Randy Orton out of the ring, and I was like, oh no, because I knew. I was like, okay, so they're not going to do another RKO. What's happening now? And then you get Roman out there, but which was too bad because I thought personally as a fan, Randy going over there made the most sense, and then you can send out the Bloodline to beat up Randy. But I understand they want AJ Styles and LA Knight involved. I think this is going to set up AJ Styles versus LA Knight at Mania, and Orton will have his feud with Roman. Maybe it continues into Elimination Chamber, right? So maybe they have a rematch at Elimination Chamber, and then you have The Rock against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, because that seems to be the way they're going. And then they had Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre as the main event, and this is why I had to do this video tonight. I wanted to do this yesterday or even on Friday when we got home, but I thought, nope. Friday night I was still kind of in a PO'd mood, so I was like, nah, I should wait until I'm in a better mood. My head's cleared up. So yesterday I had a bunch of hockey to watch, and that's why on Friday night too I didn't pay much attention to what was going on in hockey at all. During the show I did not check the scores once. I was like, I'm just going to enjoy wrestling. I'm going to turn my brain off for a few hours, and then I get home and I did a quick review before I went to bed, and everybody was like, how dare you didn't talk about Bedard. All right, well, it's just I know I've set the expectation that high. I understand it, but I'm one person, and I felt like, if I just turn my brain off for tonight, I'll do the review when I get home. We'll talk about who won. We'll talk about whatever happens in the morning. But yeah, that definitely seemed to cheese some people off. But Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre, the main event of main events. I absolutely love Drew's theme music. It's been stuck in my head since the show. I was humming it, or as I walked around the house. Even told Yvonne, you know, if you're gonna use ring entrance music for me someday when I'm walking into the room, I think that's the one. I think that's the one. I do have Scottish Irish background, so it works. It absolutely works for me. Him and Ricochet had a great match. They had a really good fun match, and the crowd loved Drew. And Drew, honestly, he was dancing in the ring. He had a lot of fun. He worked the crowd so well. Drew McIntyre, to me, it's criminal that his reign as champion was during the pandemic when there weren't fans in attendance. And I think that it's unfortunate for Drew that once the fans are back in attendance, that basically his reign was done. And since then, while he's had pushes here and there, he hasn't had that same air about him as like the guy, the one, right? And it's too bad because he definitely has that. All these years later, he kind of has that chosen one air about him. And he just seems like a really great guy. So after the match, he did beat Ricochet. Ricochet didn't leave. Normally the wrestlers slink away. And normally they'll wait until the lights are out and then they slink away. I was watching everybody and where they were going and what they were doing. Because for me, I'm interested in that. It's like when I started going to hockey games, I would watch all the stuff going on with the officials and the players and all the stuff on the benches and all the stuff you don't see on TV. So I was doing the same here with like, okay, they're leaving. He's selling an injury. He's hurt. Now he's just walking to the back. Got it. So you can see them like, oh, I'm fine now. The lights are off. I'm watching you. So Ricochet loses the match to Drew. Drew grabs the microphone. From what he said, it definitely sounds like his time in WWE is coming to an end. I don't see any reason why, because this is not on television. This is not something that's going to be broadcast anywhere because there were no cameras watching that I saw. There was one camera there, but I really don't think that they were recording what he said. He put over Ricochet big time. He said Ricochet is one of his favorite people, one of his friends backstage. And then from the first time he wrestled Ricochet, he knew this guy was going to be a big star. And he thinks this year Ricochet is going to really hit that next level. I agree with them on Ricochet. I think Ricochet is a fantastic wrestler. I think that because he's smaller, I think that's held him back from being pushed as much as he could be. And Drew is fantastic. But from everything he said, it sounds like I did find it funny too when he said, I love this crowd. This is better than a lot of the crowds I've been in front of lately. And I thought to myself, well, you're working as a face, Drew. I think Drew wanted to come out and kind of work heel, but the crowd loved him too much, so I think he gave up. But either way, I'm not booing Drew McIntyre. I think he's fantastic, which is weird because I wasn't a fan of him when he was the chosen one all those years ago. But yeah, from what he said, it sounds like his contract's almost done and he's ready to leave. He did say there's some guys he doesn't like in the back. I don't see any reason why he'd be lying about that. And he didn't say who, and he didn't, get into any drama about it. Just that it sounds to me like he's ready to move on. So I'm glad I saw him. If he decides to re-sign in WWE, great. I hope they give him another run with the title. I could even see a situation where I think he'd make a good next leader of Judgment Day. Priest leaves the group. Drew steps in. You could have a group where Drew's running it, and yeah, that could be fun. Or Drew and Rhea Ripley running it together. Good luck if you step out of line on those two. You may not make it to the next show, but it was a really fun show. I really enjoyed it. Again, I do kind of prefer the house shows, even though what you're watching at a house show isn't part of the canon storyline, right? If you're there at the TV show, you're getting the canon storyline, which is fine, which is fun. But like, there's little things. Like, I noticed that some moves missed by a lot. There were moments during matches where I was like, I don't know if that showed on TV, but that looked awful live. I think there's times where AEW does a terrible job of hiding the moves that miss. I think WWE is very good at making sure they have the camera angle exactly right. So if a guy misses a kick or misses a punch from the camera angle, you can't tell. I think that's part of it. But yeah, so all the best to Drew McIntyre and whatever he does if he does decide to leave. But I'd like to see him as champion again. And I know I may be in the minority on that, but I think he's fantastic. He can talk really well, which was a problem he had back in the old days when he was the chosen one and everything. But he talked about how he'd been fired and he'd done everything and came back and he was champ and everything. And he talked about everything in that promo. And then he had Ricochet come in the ring and shook hands with him and, held his arm up and everything. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. I would probably go again. I don't know if I would take my wife again. It was obvious that she didn't have that much fun. Like, she enjoyed it, but I think she enjoys the house shows more. I think the fact that it was on TV, plus when they were backstage doing the backstage segments, she couldn't understand what was being said over the PA. So those parts just went past her. And then the storylines, she doesn't watch every week, so she doesn't really care about the storylines. So that was kind of a downer for her, and I felt bad on that. So at any rate, there you go. Let me know your thoughts if you were there, because it was a fun show to watch. I was incognito. I just wore a bunch of Disneyland stuff that I had, my Disneyland jacket and sweatshirt, which are very neutral colors. It's a light blue sweatshirt and a green jacket. And then I think I wore my Avengers hat, which is just black with the A on it. So I was as incognito as I can get. And yeah, it was fun. It was definitely different. The loudest chants of the night, I think it was the Randy chants, although the KO chants were pretty loud too. And then Drew. The chants for Drew were so loud, and you didn't see him because he wasn't on TV, but Vancouver loves him. They do. And I don't know. Maybe that factors into negotiations too. Maybe Drew gets backstage and Triple H says to him, "You know what? That crowd loved you." If Triple H is still there, I don't know if he's just there. Maybe the gorilla position's a lot quieter after the show's done. But yeah, he had that crowd in the palm of his hand, as did Ricochet. What a great match. And I was glad to have watched it. So let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a lot. I know I haven't been posting on this channel much. I think that the fact that this past week was really challenging for me and I found myself having a hard time, I think it meant that I produced less content in general than normal, and so it kind of sacrificed the entertainment guy side of things. But I'm getting it together now, and with another week upcoming, but not an overly busy week. The NHL schedule is actually kind of friendly to me this week. I mean, I know there's 16 games on Saturday, but the week leading up to it's not that bad, so I'm all right with it. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and look for more content on this channel soon. I do need to talk about Bachelor in Paradise, because I finished it, and I have some opinions. So even though nobody's going to want to watch that video, because when I talk about the dating shows, nobody watches those videos, I'm going to make the video anyways. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.